Welcome, everyone. It's a great pleasure to see you all here this evening. Your hosts this evening are the Massillon Women's Club and the Massillon Heritage Foundation, and specifically the Education and Outreach Committee, which is a joint committee composed of Mary Ann Poling, Sue Keller, Nancy Thatcher, Patty Carmola, Mike Thompson, Linda Tarl, and me, Nancy Welch. We're going to give you an interesting evening tonight. We're going to have you up and down this evening. And if you would all first please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's our great pleasure to have veterans with us this evening. We are so very appreciative of your service and the sacrifice of your families. I hope that you'll enjoy this tribute that we have planned for you this evening. We have some distinguished guests with us that would also like to speak with you. First, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Mayor, Kathy Catazero-Perry.
Thank you and good evening. It is an honor to be with you this evening. I know that many of you are very aware that the city of Massillon is a very patriotic city. We value our veterans and your families and the sacrifices that you have given. And tonight we're going to celebrate your service to our country. So with that, we want to thank you. We want to welcome you to the City of Champions and thank you for being a champion for our country.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Judge Ed Elum, who is himself a veteran.
Thank you, Nancy, and ladies and gentlemen, veterans. It's just wonderful to be in this grand house. When I was invited to be here at the Women's Club, I got invited here a lot of times, but usually it was when my mother was here and we had to wipe the walls down with Murphy's oil soap. So I was a little hesitant about coming tonight, knowing that I already worked a full day, but I want to thank the mayor for her introductory remarks, the Heritage Foundation and my good friend Mike Thompson, the ladies of the Women's Club, where's Patty at, who keeps me informed, Patty Carmola and Kathy Green, what the Women's Club means to the city of Massillon, what the Women's Club meant during the war, World War I and World War II, and also the various food drives, the baskets that you put together for the veterans in all the wars. And you've always recognized the veterans here in Massillon, and of course those who have gave the ultimate sacrifice. I want to recognize some of my friends. I walked in here, I was so surprised that there was not a bucket of water here or Murphy's oil soap, but there were good friends like Mike Perez. What, Mike? Where's Mike at? Mike, a World War II veteran, and Mike and I worked a soup kitchen many, many years. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce my good friend General Hawes. We always, because the protocol in the military is also to recognize the senior officer first, and I forgot to do that. Because, General, being a Navy man, I was always deferring to my friend and swim partner, Admiral Don Heyman, who's here. Don is here. Was a classmate of my mother at Washington High School, and we've always talked at the Y in the morning. It gave me enough common sense when I left the Y to tackle the day, because it was very difficult. But I remember the sacrifices of the Don Amons and the General Hawes of this world, and Mike Perez. And so it made my day go a lot easier. It gives me an opportunity not only to thank the Women's Club, but to thank the veterans day in and day out that not only serve, but continue to help Mayor Kathy and the Veterans Committee that under Mayor Catazero-Perry's leadership, City of Massillon 2 years ago was designated a Purple Heart City, one of the few in the country. It's a beautiful monument that Kathy and Terry Rohn led the charge in raising the money for that monument that's in Veterans Memorial Park. Also, I want to recognize Kathy and her committee. Recently, in September, we were designated a Gold Star family marker, one of the first in Ohio and second in the country. That also is in Veterans Memorial Park. I want to thank Massillon Cable TV, and I see Randy here, and Ryan, who's with me down at the court, for their coverage in 2014 of the ceremony that's been playing the last 2 weeks on the Purple Heart designation that the City of Massillon had received from the National Purple Heart Association, and also the state commander designated that. Now, not to think that I always dress up in a suit and tie, but when I come in this grand house, I have so many warm memories. And I've spoken to just about every section here at the Women's Club, and always tell the story about, cleaning out the third floor. It was still burned and charred from the fire that was here. And so it was Pinky Ringley and Jeanette Elum that was moved. Of course, they had free labor at the time. They had their kids. And we were here every Saturday through the geranium sales and the rummage sales and cleaning everything out. And it came to fruition in 1973 when this house was named and was designated on the National Historical Register. So it's come a long way. I come past the house every single night on the way home. When I'm riding my bike, I come here. I always make sure that the flag out front here, as we walked in, is always in great shape. And I owe that to really Terry Rohn. Terry and I will start tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we'll post the United States flag at the various holders throughout the city. We get tremendous cooperation from the Massillon Police Department, as they usually run an escort service to help us so nobody gets hurt, as Terry is up in the bird cage, and of course I'm his gopher handing him the flag. So I don't have a whole lot to do with it. It really goes with Terry Rohn. I want to conclude. I was at a ceremony in Canal Fulton on Sunday, and I think this is a very appropriate time because the Massillon Women's Club was very active in the period I'm about to tell you. December 7th of this year will mark the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the tragedy, the start of America getting into World War II. I don't need to tell you the history, what happened on December 7th, 1941. I do want to thank what's going to happen that Sunday before December 7th. I think, Ryan, it's December 4th at the Masonic Lodge. All of the veterans, I encourage you to go there. They have probably one of the best luncheons for veterans and their families from 3 to 6. So if you do have time, and if you are watching this on Massillon Cable TV and you're a veteran, please get down to the Masonic Lodge at the closest I can tell you, at the foot of the Tremont Viaduct. Historically, that's where Sherlock Evans and his father, who owned the circus in town, kept the circus animals. As a young kid, I used to go over there and play with the circus animals. So that's where the Masonic Lodge is. Getting back to December 7th, 1941, a person who I never knew, but was a Massillonian and a Massillon Tiger. He was a classmate of my father at Massillon Washington High School. They both went to Ohio State together. I think they were both asked to leave together for something that remains a deep, dark secret. I see his monument every day at the Medal of Honor Park at Veterans Memorial Park. It's Robert R. Scott, machinist mate, first class, United States Navy. Robert Scott epitomizes what the City of Champions really means. Born July 13, 1915 in Massillon, Ohio, his citation for his Medal of Honor for conspicuous devotion to duty, extraordinary courage, and complete disregard for his own life, above and beyond the call of duty. During the attack on the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese forces on 7 December 1941, Robert Scott was on the USS California, which was the flagship of the Pacific Fleet, being docked there, being prepared to do their round of duty later in 1942. The compartment in which Scott was located, he was downstairs, and as Mr. Amon will tell you what a machinist first mate was, they really ran the Navy. They ran the ship. It wasn't guys like me, lieutenants on board. I knew where the mess hall was, and I knew where the flat screen TV was. These are the men and women who ran the United States Navy. The compartment in the USS California, which the air compressor to which Scott was assigned at his battle station, was flooded as a result of a torpedo hit. The remainder of the personnel evacuated that compartment under orders, but Scott refused to leave, saying these very prominent words and historical words that were shown in the movie Pearl Harbor about 15 years ago. "This is my station, and I will stay and give them air as long as the guns are going." He went down with the USS California and is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. There is a dormitory down at Ohio State in Robert Scott's honor. There's a training facility on North Island in San Diego that I had the honor to visit, Robert Scott training facility in San Diego. There's also I think a tender ship named after Robert Scott. Robert Scott played on Paul Brown's first football team in 1932. It all comes together. A Tiger, a hero, a Massillonian, a person who really is known as coming from the City of Champions. So I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want you to remember, in about 3 weeks, why we celebrate on December 7th. This crowd knows. Chip Bookings, my friend, who was, every time I was in a problem with my plumber, with plumbing problems, I'd call Chip. Chip was the VFW Teacher of the Year. There's no more Chip Bookings out there because today's students don't know what December 7th, 1941 is. I see it every day. I ask them, you're going to come back to court on December 7th. What is that in American history? They'd look down on the calendar and say, oh my gosh, that's a Thursday. Okay. If you know what December 7th, 1941 is, you get a get out of jail pass. They're sweating bullets. This is my chance to get out of jail. And you know I'm just kidding. They don't know. It's our fault. We have to, functions like this at the Massillon Women's Club and veterans attending here and good, solid citizens like Major Tom and his wife Pertz are here, and what they do at the Salvation Army. And God knows what you have done in every war, what the Salvation Army has done with the Red Cross in supporting our troops. The baton has been passed to us, and we need to know, we need to let the students know, we need to know, let our community know that in 3 weeks we celebrate, and we should celebrate this every year, what those young 2,000 plus sailors and airmen and Army personnel at Henderson Field did to protect the mainland and therefore thrust us into World War II, where the Japanese thought we were just soft Americans. The same thing that's happening today in the Middle East. They think we're soft, but we're not. We have the American spirit, and in Massillon, we have the City of Champions. So thank you very much, Nancy, for this opportunity to speak at this grand house, which Mike and I have always talked about. It's not a secret. We know about it. But more Massillonians should be proud of what the Massillon Women's Club has done over its history. And what we here tonight are honoring, those veterans who are here among us, the Don Amons, the General Hawes, the Mike Perez's. Let me see a show of hands of the Vietnam veterans. There we go, Chip, a Vietnam veteran. Afghanistan, Persian Gulf, Iraq. the war is still going on, ladies and gentlemen. We need to support our troops. We need to pray for them. And when you see a young soldier, and we're all here tonight, we know what that means. A young soldier, we look at him and say, my gosh, this person's 19 years old and he's wearing the uniform of the United States. You thank him. You shake their hands. We've got Cosmos Restaurant in Massillon going to offer free meals to veterans tomorrow. So Don, you and I are going to hit there tomorrow, okay? Right after we swim. But then again, thank you very much, Nancy. Okay?
Thank you very much, Judge Elum. I'd like to pay tribute to the Ohio servicemen who were lost in each of the wars, starting with the Civil War. I got my statistics from the Ohio Veterans Memorial Park in Clinton. If you haven't been there, you really should go. It's a wonderful spot. It's all been done with volunteer money and time. You may have seen in the paper recently that they just received a tank from Denison. They also have a Vietnam-era helicopter and a big truck. I don't know what it is. It's a big truck, though. But it's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So please make your way there. I know you'll enjoy being there. So starting with the Civil War, 1861 to 1865, 310,564 Ohioans fought in the Civil War. Of those, 11,237 were killed. This house was built by J. Walter and Flora McClymans. J. Walter was a local philanthropist and a wonderful Massillon benefactor. And he has ties to the Civil War, and Mike Thompson from the Heritage Foundation is going to explain those.
The last time I was here was in August. It was a tad bit warmer. And I had the opportunity when we had the descendants of the McClymans here to give a speech on J. Walter, who I know little about until I came on the Heritage Foundation. So I did a little research on him and became a lot of research. He was an amazing man. He would be here today if he could, and he would thank you veterans for being here. He, I guess a little background on Mr. McClymans in terms of his service and why he and his wife would have thanked you and wanted you to be his guest is appropriate. When he was 18 years of age and in high school, on an April day, shortly after the Civil War broke out, he on the way home from high school enlisted to fight for the North. He hadn't told his parents. He just came, I'm going in the military. His initial assignment was only 3 months, and he served and saw battle during those first 3 months. And at that point in time, his career, he could have walked away from the Civil War, but he didn't. He then enlisted again, and he became a member of the Ohio 19th Volunteer Infantry. During the course of his time, he rose from sergeant major to captain in the volunteer, and upon the completion of his service in the volunteer portion, they thought so much of him, they offered him a position as first lieutenant in the regular army, which he accepted for a short period of time. He came back to Massillon, and I say came back, he didn't grow up in Massillon, he grew up in Lisbon, Ohio. He came back to Massillon, and he helped form the 104th Ohio Volunteer Infantry, which was formed here in Massillon at what's then called Camp Massillon. It was after his military service that he came back here. And while this community thanks you veterans, and it always has, the largest celebration in Stark County, in July 4th, immediately after the Civil War, when it ended in 1865, was here in Massillon. Present were the Ohio Secretary of State. There was the mayors of not only Massillon, Canton, but also Worcester. They put on a celebration, and they paid tribute to each person who had served in the Civil War. They got a free lunch at this picnic. Everybody else paid 50 cents. He was then 22 years of age, had never lived in Massillon for any period of time, but his family had, and he was the president of the day for that celebration. He later came back to Massillon, and his stories and accolades, what he's done for this community, what he has met, he truly was the captain of Massillon at once upon a time. And he did everything he could for this community, both from a business point of view and from a charitable point of view. But I will tell you that he would have been so proud to be here tonight with you folks, because his service to his country was his greatest calling. And if you go to the cemetery here in Massillon, you won't see about him being president of this company, helping to start the library, helping to form the first Massillon Social Club for all family members to go to, giving money for churches, giving money or land for camps. No, what you would see is on his simple tombstone reference to his military service and the company for which he was a part of. That's what is on his tombstone. I will tell you very briefly about his military career. He saw many battles. His last campaign, he was part of the march from the north to Atlanta with Sherman. Didn't go all the way to the sea because his time ended and he didn't quite finish that tour, but he was very, very active in the military. He became an adjutant general during the course of his service and developed the nickname of Adgie, a nickname that he kept, and he kept it in Massillon. When he was president of Russell and Company, the workers would call him Adgie. So he's very proud of his military background, but proud of all you folks who have served, and he would be here today if he could, certainly, thanking you. I will tell you just 2 or 3 little quick stories about his service. He was cited for his valor and heroism by one of the generals. He served faithfully. After he got out of it, the Civil War ended. They wanted him to come to Washington and become an adjutant general for the General of the Army of the United States. He did that for a short period of time, then came to Massillon. He was also asked once to be Secretary of State of the United States and turned it down when his good friend William McKinley was elected president. He thought so much of his fellow soldiers and what they did. One winter, when they were struggling in the cold, he used family money to buy overcoats and boots for everybody in his group. This is not something he had to do. This is something he wanted to do. I will tell you that a humorous story, and I promised, even though I can go on for about an hour talking about this gentleman, I won't, that he one time liberated some chickens from a farm to feed the officers because they didn't have the supply chains that we have now, and that had talked to one of a young boy who had traveled with the Army group, who wasn't directly in the military, Shakespeare, and he had the young boy citing Shakespeare over dinner of the liberated chickens that he used to feed the men in his company. I will tell you, if he were here today, he, along with his wife, would be so happy that you folks were here, because he appreciated the sacrifice for country and spent his life helping to make it a better place, much as you have done through the military. So on behalf of the McClyman family, J. Walter, long since dead for over 100 years, I want to thank you for being here tonight. With the magic of television or the magic of whatever we have, I can now fast forward. I'm a little younger now. I'm not from the Civil War. I'm now going to talk briefly about the First World War. And I know we have lost, I think just in the last year or so, the last living person who served in the American, for America in the First World War. And now there is nobody. But this very organization, the Massillon Women's Club, was instrumental when their boys, their husbands, their brothers went off to war in World War I. They didn't sit around and do nothing. They worked with the Red Cross to sew bandages and clothing for the war effort. And they did this unselfishly during the First World War. And upon the conclusion of the war, they then began to meet and continue as a social club, and that was the genesis of the start of the Massillon Women's Club that continues to this day. So I know on behalf of the Heritage Foundation and also on behalf of the Massillon Women's Club, we also thank you, veterans, for being here and for what you have meant to our country. And it's nice to be able to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance and enjoy and reflect upon what a wonderful country we live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'll continue with the statistics of the Ohio soldiers lost. As Mike referred to World War I, we lost 6,800 from Ohio in World War I. Now, as I proceed through the next wars, if you participated in that war, if you would please stand or wave your hand or whatever you would like. World War II, 1941 to 1945. We have some World War II veterans out here. Thank you. Thank you very much. We have 2 here. Thank you. There were 839,000 from Ohio that served in World War II and 23,000 lost. How about the Korean War? Any Korean War veterans? Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. 1950 to 1953, we lost 1,777 Ohioans in the Korean War. Vietnam War. Chip? And Tom? No? Thank you. Thank you, Chip. That's the war of my contemporaries, 1964 to 1973. 3,095 Ohioans were lost in that war. And if you go to the Memorial Park in Clinton, each of those names are engraved on the wall there. How about, do we have any contemporary veterans? The Gulf War, 1991. The Gulf War, thank you. 16 Ohioans were lost in the Gulf War. Then after 9/11, the War on Terror, the invasion of Afghanistan in 2001, no? 94 Ohioans were lost there. In Iraq in 2003, 195 Ohioans. So again, thank you all for your service. We are pleased to have with us this evening the Majestic Voice, who are here to entertain you with a patriotic program. The group is directed by Kathy Bell, and I believe they will take the stage now.
Rocks and rills and temple hills and amber waves of grain, lights and trees and shining seas all across the fruited plain. Starry nights and spacious skies, a gentle summer wind. This is the land that I love. Cold and glow, bringing melting snow, forming icy flowing streams. Sparkling sand and fertile land, purple mountain majesties. Ocean roar and eagles soar, flares waving in the breeze. This is the land that I love, America. God shed His grace on thee and crown thy liberty with blessing from above, America.
We are so grateful to be here with you this evening and to celebrate this very important holiday in our country. The final song that we are going to sing is our national anthem. We love this arrangement because it has all three verses of the national anthem, and you don't hear verse 2 and verse 3 very often. We obviously invite you to stand and join us on the first verse, but we understand if you'd like to be seated for verse 2 and 3. Okay.
Thank you. That was Majestic Voice. Weren't they wonderful? They were very good. They were great. Okay, this is the audience participation part of the program. I'm going to give you the motto or the slogan of each branch of service, and I want you to shout out if you know which branch it belongs to, okay? 3 of these are in Latin, and this is finally, after over 50 years, I get to use my 3 years of high school Latin, okay? So I'm going to give it to you first in Latin, and I'm going to start out with an easy one, okay? You should all know this one. All right? Semper Fidelis. Marines, right. Now, what does it mean?
Always faithful.
Very good. Always faithful. Okay, this one's close. Another Latin, and I see someone here that should know this. Semper Paratus. Coast Guard. And what does it mean? Always ready. Very good. Okay, this one's a little harder. Last Latin one. Non sibi sed patriae. Non sibi sed patriae. Okay, I'll give you the translation. Not self, but country. Navy. It's the Navy. Now, these are old. These are old original. Okay, so we've got 2 left, Air Force and Army. I'll give you an easy one. Aim high, fly, fight, win. Air Force. Okay. Okay. Good guess. Good guess. All right, last one. This will defend. The Army. Good. Okay, thank you. We're going to have another musical portion of our program. Nino Millin, here's Nino. He's a great supporter of the Heritage Foundation and a wonderful pianist. He's played for us so many times. He's going to play the theme of each branch of service, and if you would stand if you served in that branch. Nino? And you can sing along if you'd like. hopefully with the words that go with the song. Of course, maybe some of you servicemen know some different words than we would know for the music. Here? Nope. Thank you, Nino. Thank you. In closing, I'd like to explain one last military tradition. I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot this evening about the military, about our veterans. And this is one last tradition I'd like to explain, and perhaps many of you know about this. You may have noticed coins left on the gravestones of soldiers. This tradition actually started in Roman times when the soldiers would leave a coin on the headstone of another soldier for them to use in the afterlife for spending. This tradition gained popularity after the Vietnam War. When soldiers would go to visit the families, they found it difficult to meet with those who had lost a loved one in the war. So as a result, coins were left on the markers of the soldiers. If you see a penny on a marker, it means that someone has visited in honor of the fallen serviceman. A nickel means that the visitor trained with the deceased soldier in boot camp. A dime indicates that the soldier served with the deceased. And a quarter means that the visitor was with the soldier when he or she was killed in battle. I encourage you to continue to honor and appreciate our servicemen and women. They really, truly are the best of our country. Major Perks of the Salvation Army, will give us a benediction.
Such an honor to be in your presence this evening, to consider the history of this house and all that it has meant to so many. But to be in your presence is the true honor. I believe that God gave us Christ to show us what he's like. God gave us you to show us what our country should be like. We can just have a moment of silent prayer for all those who have fallen. Dear God, what an honor it is to be here this evening, to celebrate the best of our country, the ideals of our country. Lord, I thank you for each man and woman who has stepped up and stood their post, who has said, sleep well tonight because I'm here. Lord, we thank you for their families that supported them, that endured the time while their loved one was away. I thank you for those who came alongside and encouraged them, as well as those in our members of our service. Lord, I thank you for all of the stories, for all that they have to share with us. Help us never to overlook that golden opportunity. And as we celebrate those who have served, Lord, our heart goes out to now those men and women who are standing at a post representing us, keeping us and the world safe. Oh God, assign angels over them. Bring them joy and happiness even in times of distress, even when it's so hard to find beauty. Lord, bring a small bird to them. Let them see a flower. Let them have a good laugh with their friend. Bless them, Lord. And for the families who now have an empty chair at their table, God, encourage them as well and bring their loved ones home. But for us tonight, we are thankful, Lord, for this country and for each man and woman who has made it what it is. Give us wisdom, give us stamina, give us courage to walk in their footsteps and continue on. We pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen and amen. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. One of our veterans here tonight, David Halter, has brought a copy of this book for each of the veterans. It's a story, as I understand it, about a conscientious objector who went into war without a weapon and the number of lives he saved. And it's to soon be a documentary, right? Oh, is it in the theater now? Okay. All right, a Mel Gibson movie, right? So he very kindly purchased copies for each of the veterans, and they're on the library table here. So please pick one up this evening. I invite you to punch in cookies in the dining room. You're welcome to move around through these rooms, enjoy the decorations. Unfortunately, the upper floors are closed because the decorators are still decorating. You can see as you wander through, there's still some decorations to be put up. So thank you again so much for coming. We've so enjoyed having you and hope you'll come back again. Thank you.